Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. Last time we made a few atmospheric sounds, and today I'm going to show you how you can take those atmospheric sounds and use effects and automation to put them into a drop and make them sound like they belong there. So let's go over the project and see what we have. Okay, so as you can see here we have our three projects we had last time. I'm quickly going to disable this track because we don't need it anymore. And we have our two sounds that we made here, which because I made the timing different, we should probably unwarp them. And same for this one. Oh, not same for that one. You can hear that sound, and then we have this other transition sound. So if we just place this in a drop like this, you can hear that it won't fit very well. It just comes in, and it's not even in key. So the first thing we need to do is check the key of this track. And to do that, I'm just going to go to the kick and see that this is in F sharp, I would say. And this pad is in E, so we need to turn it up to F sharp. But we still have the same problem as we had before, which is that it just suddenly comes in and there's no real transition into it. And normally an atmosphere is like a transition sound from one part to the next. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to consolidate this, and that's going to take a little while because we did a lot of stuff to it and it needs to calculate all the new waveform. As you can see, it's having a bit of trouble, also because I'm recording. So let's hope it does not crash on me here. And alright, so now we have the waveform here. So first thing we can do is, like we established last time, this is going to be a transition point. So if we just quickly, you can see how it kind of turns up here and then turns back down here. So we'll have this at a part where we have a transition. So what we can do, for example, is we can have a kick or a kick without a bass here, and then this will be a transition from this section into this section. Now the first thing you would obviously do is add fades to it, which is a very good idea. So it just slowly fades in over time. And then we can do the same thing for the fade out. So we have a nice transition here, and it kind of fades in and then it quickly fades out again. But it's still very in your face at this point, as you can hear. So what I really like to do is just add a low pass filter, and I think that's a really cool way to kind of set up or kind of have it more fade in and then fade out. And to enforce the transition, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really sharp cutoff here, not too sharp because otherwise you're gonna get clicks. And then we're gonna quickly fade it out all the way. And later we'll add reverb and delay, and then that will start to sound really well. So you kind of get that effect where this is kind of rising into the next part and then it quickly drops out. So now the real magic elements of these atmospheres comes in the form of reverb and delay. So I first like to add my delay, because I like to hear what the delay is doing before I hear the feedback. I tend to put it on ping pong mode, because I like the stereo effect we get from that. And I like a long feedback for a nice drawn out delay. Also because we're on a short timing here for now, you need a longer feedback to get the same length of time of the signal. So now we have now maybe that's a bit too extreme, so what we can do is we can double the timing by going to 6 here and then turning this down a bit. I think that's better, and for now I'm just going to turn the dry wet down slightly so it fits a bit better into the mix. And then lastly, I like to add a reverb, and I generally just use the built-in effects from Ableton for my reverb, and then just turn up the decay time and turn down the dry wet. That's almost always gives me the result I'm looking for. So now we have a nice atmosphere that kind of works in the structure of the track, but it's not really mixed in yet. So I'm going to go back, and just before our delay we're going to go and put an EQ, and we're kind of going to scoop out the frequencies that we think are a bit too extreme. So by just listening to it and kind of seeing what's going on, we can see that here we have these 3 spikes, and especially the highest one, which just is really extreme, and we can kind of take them down a bit. So that we don't have those resonant spikes in the final sound. So that works a bit better. Lastly, something you should consider is the stereo image of your atmospheres. Normally, you want to have your kick and your bass and your lead sounds a little bit in mono, and then you want your supporting sounds like a drone or an atmosphere sounds to be more stereo. So to achieve this, I'm going to use a free plugin by Polyverse called Wider, which is a really cool widening plugin. It's not the most versatile in terms of control. You can do you just have this one knob which makes things wider, but for a free plugin it's really useful. And once it has this nice big stereo field, you can already hear that it kind of starts to sink back in the track, and that the kick and the bass elements start to kind of take over the center of the track again. And that's really what an atmosphere should be about. So to enhance this, what we can do is we can add a bit of sidechaining. And this is already set up in a way that it has a sidechaining over 1/4 here. And if you don't know this plugin, it's LFO tool. It's a very useful plugin. It gives you this LFO, which you can use to sidechain things. Among other things, you can use it to filter to it. But for now, we're just going to go for sidechaining. So you can see I've turned on the scope here, and just gonna kind of scoop out where the kick is supposed to be, so that the transient of the kick has priority over the atmosphere here. So you can hear that this starts to fit into the track. So now let's go over and do the same thing for this one. Again, we have to check the key. Because I have the MIDI, we can see that the key is actually correct here. and we can start dragging it in. So let's say we want this to be our second part here. I just turned off the warp feature, so now I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to set it to Complex Pro, which is really useful for tonal sounds if you don't want to like mess around with it too much, if you just want it to sound good. And I'm gonna put the timing, or I'm gonna put it in such a way that it kind of makes sense with the timing, and we'll take it from here. So as you can hear now, we kind of have the same problems as we had last time, where we have some frequencies which just dominate the kick and the bass. So I'm going to quickly put it here so I can see it better. And we're going to scoop out these same frequencies again. You can just solo them, and you can see these bottom frequencies really clash with our kick and bass here. Also, it's a bit too loud, so I'm just slightly going to turn it down here. Now it kind of works already in the track. It's nice and stereo, but I'm going to use, first of all, I'm going to take our sidechaining here, and we'll add that to the thing. And usually once I have a delay and a reverb set up on one atmosphere, I tend to just copy them over to the other one. That way they kind of all sound similar in terms of spacing. And a last thing what we can do is towards the end of the drop, we can turn up a high pass filter to kind of scoop out those bottom frequencies and give it a bit more, change over time, which I talked about in the last video, which is really important when you're doing these atmospheres, that there's some flow through them. So we can use a high pass filter to achieve that even more. Okay, so now we have two simple elements, atmospheric elements below our track, and I hope this helps you kind of create your own atmospheres and kind of gives you an idea how to process them and how to put them into a track. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. If you have any ideas for future tutorials, please let me know, and I hope to see you next time.